Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Where in the World, where we have real conversations with young professionals about life and career, all while attempting to guess where in the world they are. We'll learn something new about our guests and what it's like to forge your own career path as a young professional. And when we say young, we're really talking about a state of mind. You'll learn by watching this web series that your career will take many dips and turns over time, and just when you think you've made it, you might have to scrap it all and start from scratch. Sometimes that's just the way it goes, and we ride the tide. I'm your host, Clary Johnson, and we're joined here today by Carmen Urquiza, or Urquiza, who's an associate principal at Corn Ferry. As an associate principal, Carmen has the opportunity to wake up every day and impact the lives of her clients, and she supports them in learning new skills to enhance their skills so that they can achieve success in their careers and in their personal lives. And the way she does this is through facilitating leadership courses, partnering with her peers on customizing leadership development solutions, and also through individual or group coaching. The big, hairy question we're asking today is how can young professionals establish strong, healthy professional relationships in the workplace that lead to career advancement? But before we jump in, let's do some housekeeping. This is a mini web series game show, and the questions will range from standard interview like questions to more personal questions about our guests' careers. You'll notice we're both here today with different backgrounds, and in between questions, we'll each have an opportunity to guess where in the world the other person is. The first person to guess correctly wins. Our guests can ask for yes or no clues along the way or any kind of clues, and our audience can also help out by asking for clues as well. So please join me in welcoming Carmen to the show.
Hi, Clary. It's great to be here. Thanks for the invite. I'm very excited to share with you all today.
Yes, and I just want to begin by saying that you're a very special guest on this show. For young professionals who are watching this and wondering what recruiters are looking for when hiring candidates, Carmen has a HR track record at some leading companies. And not only does she understand what organizations are looking for in qualified candidates, she also understands the steps that young professionals need to take to develop their careers beyond that initial offer. Relationships, guys, are a huge critical aspect of that journey. Do not minimize it. So we're so honored to have an esteemed guest on the show who really understands what professional development looks like from entry level to leadership. And Carmen, we reconnected during a very challenging time in my life when I was actually transitioning from corporate America to entrepreneurship. And it was because we had already established a bond during our time as colleagues that we were able to continue that relationship years later. And I personally learned so much from you, and I can't wait for our viewers to also benefit from your insights tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for what you're doing. It's great to be here.
Excellent. So let's get started with our most common interview question. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Yes, so I am Carmen Urquiza, and my background is in leadership and management. But more importantly, I want to share about who I am as an individual. So I love the work that I do, and my passion very early on in my life has always been around teaching. So I have followed the path in terms of really creating a life that I feel that I'm living my life by design. And what it is really making the choices that are important to me, both professionally and personally, so that I'm aligned in terms of what are the most important things for me. So I get to do that every day as a professional. It's and also as just in my own personal life with my family. I have two grown kids, and so it's exciting to be able to see and look back at my life and see that throughout my entire career, I have looked for opportunities in both areas that really align with my North Star. What is it that really brings me fulfillment? And not so much as in the career, but also as well as in the professional aspect. So, each time it's for me to come back and check, am I really still aligned with my North Star? Am I still feeling fulfilled? And that's really my record in terms of where my journey has been in both my personal and professional life.
Beautiful. And what I find so fascinating about what you're saying is you've come to a place in your career where you feel aligned both in your personal journey and in your professional journey where that comes together. And I think for many people that's the dream, that's the idea, like that's what we want to achieve, but sometimes that goal feels very far-fetched, it feels very beyond us. And uh, I want to get into a little bit more about like w- when you've kind of found yourself in this space where you're feeling fulfilled, how much time would you say it took for you in your journey to get to that place, to get to that space where you feel that alignment? Like, is it about time? Is it about experience? Is it something else? What is it? Was it that was a part of your exploration that brought you to this space right now?
Yes. So it life and also your professional career, I mean, it is a journey. So it's not necessarily like you're going to wake up one day, right? And you're going to flip a switch or wave a little magic wand and everything's going to be in place. But, the constant question for me, throughout my life is, am I feeling like I'm making an impact? Am I making an impact here, right? In my education, even, or when I started my career, right? It wasn't like you automatically, just because you obtain, let's say, a degree, means you automatically land your first ideal job, if you will. So it is a journey. But the way to think about life, and in terms of if we focus on professionally, it's really about having an anchor, like an anchor goal, right? What is ultimately, as you see yourself, if you're looking at a picture, what do you see your life? What does it look like for you? So that would be your overarching, right? So what kinds of, let's say, problems do you want to be solving? What kind of work do you want to be doing? So in that sense, it's not so much about focusing on a title, but really focusing on the impact you want to have, the kind of work that you gravitate towards, and then that's where you find the opportunities. I've been in various companies throughout my career, but each time I've been able to find very fulfilling work. And I've joined many organizations, right? And as we see nowadays, it's not so much about, staying necessarily with an organization, is really finding, am I really fulfilling, right? Am I having the impact that I want to have given my current work and responsibilities? Because that picture may change throughout your career. So it's really staying aligned with what's your anchor goal. And that anchor goal, it's really relates to your personal, your professional, and even like a spiritual life, if you will. So all of those three elements really align very well. And that's a constant journey, and it evolves throughout time.
Hmm. And that's beautiful and well stated because I remember being in roles where the impact wasn't always necessarily clear to me, but I had to find my purpose within that role. And sometimes it wasn't that the role itself was the purpose, or it wasn't that the role itself was the way that I was intended to create an impact, but I was learning something from that experience that amounted to, right, kind of where I am today. My vision and my mission for really helping young professionals through this journey, and I call it the gap from when they graduated from college to when they get their first career accelerating opportunity, and those first 3 months of that experience. But it took me to go through these different experiences and these different roles and these different jobs to be able to come out on the other side and create a platform and create a program that really drives towards this mission. And so you're right. It's about like picking up tools along the way and then also just kind of keeping the goal in sight, but then finding alignment in all those three areas, which you talked about: your personal, your professional, and your spiritual, so that you can be in a place to be able to stand in your purpose and fulfill that. So let's go ahead. We are going to pause and we're going to
Sure.
guess This is one of my favorite parts of the show. Um, we're going to guess where the other person is. And so I see you're here. It looks very beautiful where you are. It looks like you are um, maybe on a river, or it doesn't quite look like an ocean, but it looks like a river or a stream or a bay of some type. Um, it's very green and luscious, and so I'm going to take a guess. Well, let me ask a question first. Have you been to this place? Is this a place that you visited before?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I'm going to guess. Well, okay. I'm going to guess that you are somewhere in the United States.
That is correct. It is in the yes.
Perfect.
So far, so good.
Perfect. Okay. So that narrows it down a lot for us. And so now it's your turn to
All
guess.
right. So let's start off. Okay. So it looks very beautiful also. I'm drawn to anything that's green, right? And so is this a place I see, like mountains or hills, very green. Is this a place in the US?
This is not a place in the US. No, it is not. Would you like to guess where I am or make a guess?
At first when I saw it, I was like, was that a part of like the Great Wall of China somewhere? It looks very similar. I went there years ago, and it part of it look a little bit of that sort of path that's to your left.
Okay.
So I thought, oh, it might be something like that.
Okay. So is your guess China?
I'll say China.
All right. Well, so we're not quite in China, but we are not far from China. Well,
Oh,
I guess it depends on what you consider far.
yes.
We are in the region.
Okay.
We're in the eastern region. Okay.
Okay.
I'll give you a clue about this place. So the oldest living tree known to be planted by man is in this country.
All right. That's a great clue.
Yeah.
You want me
All
to
right.
give you a clue for mine?
Sure. Let's go.
All right, so it gets really, really hot in the summer in this state.
Okay. So that okay, I
Hot
have
and muggy.
hot and muggy. Ooh. I think I kind of I think I might know where you are. Okay. Well, so let's move on to our next question. What role has relationships played in your career advancement? So you described a little bit of your path of how you kind of got to this point, but can you tell us about what role relationships played in getting to you to this space where you finally have found some alignment?
Yes, of course. Many years ago, early on in my career, I used to support an account executive for a medical device company. And his name is Tom McMahon. And it's one of my greatest mentors that I had the pleasure of, having an advocate, if you will, a mentor, a great person. And one of the times that I went on a ride along with him to a hospitals in the Boston area, he turned around and said, "Let me give you some advice." He goes, "The key to success is really all about relationships, all about genuine relationships." And so I thought, okay, great, right? And so as we walked into the hospital, I noticed everyone there, all the surgeons, all the medical staff, everybody there knew Tom, and they knew him like they see him every day. They asked each other about family, about sports, about business as well. And again, he turned around and to me and faced me and said, "Remember this, the key to success, the key to career advancement is not just the work that you do, but it's the relationships." Because every year, Mr. Tom McMahon, he would bring in millions. Like one year was $3 million worth of sales, and then the next year five. And even when his territory was split in two, he somehow or another managed to bring in the revenue. And so I remember that so clearly early in my career. And it stayed in the back of my mind throughout my career of how important relationships are. And truly, they are the key besides work, right? Besides delivering. right? The performance that is expected of us. The other thing that's going to gain us that visibility that we need, that advocacy, that sponsorship, those systems really, they don't exist necessarily in a vacuum. A lot of times we see in corporate America, or as we begin our career, perhaps we see only certain people, right, having exposure, visibility by being part of, let's say, leadership development programs. So many of us, as we begin our career, we need to think about investing in relationships before we need them, right? So don't wait until you're looking to grow your career, because people can kind of smell us a mile away and say, now, right? Or don't wait, let's say, to, find out who, let's say you see a posting, right? You have a job and you see, oh, there's an internal posting. I'm going to go ahead and now connect with a hiring manager. Right? We're really good about early in our career. And even, I mean, I speak with leaders every day, but think about it, we're really good in terms of managing peer to peer, but typically people are uncomfortable um, making connections with higher level leadership, because it might be something that in the organization doesn't happen. It might not be, say, encouraged, or simply because I feel uncomfortable. So, for instance, I may be an introvert, right? So you're telling me that I need to, create a connection with people, that it's just not going to work for me. But even, even introverts, right? There are ways that we can connect one on one with individuals. And so for me, that has been, the best and most ideal way to really create a strong relationships. They don't begin right off the bat. They don't begin with having a sponsor right away. But as you begin to create these connections with people, as you begin to share about who you are authentically, what are your career aspirations? What are the things that you really value, etc. And so as you begin to connect with people through either one-on-one meetings or in events that your organization may have, it's also important, right, to keep those connections going strong. People are not going to seek you and say, I want to be your mentor. It's really works the other way. It's us seeking those relationships. Let me give you an example. I've been in the workforce for many years, right? And so one of the things that happened to me as in my current job is I was interviewing with this fabulous organization. I had a series of interviews. So there were a few, as you may know, right? When you're applying for a job, there are several interviews and you get to the next level. And I remember that last interview that I had, I felt really excited. I felt like I did an awesome job representing myself and in my skills. And I reached out to someone I knew from a few years back from the previous company that I was working in at that time. And this person had long retired from the organization. But I developed a very strong relationship with this individual. So this person, became a trust advisor, became a mentor by me asking them, would you be my mentor? And then we continued meeting, etc. And then by the time they left the organization, I consider this person a sponsor. This was somebody high up in the organization. They retired, right? But years later, it turns out that I was now applying for a job. And so I said, oh, let me call my friend, right? Let me just let her know because she knows this company. And so when I shared with this individual that I had applied and there was a good possibility that I would be offered the job, she says, Carmen, I know some people over there.
Wow.
I can call them. Would you like me to do that? And so at first I thought, uh, first my first instinct was, wait a second, no, I want to get the job like based on my own skills. But then I was like, it doesn't hurt if she's willing to do that for me. So she picked up the phone and she called a couple of the individuals that she knew from this company and said, you got to hire her. I mean, she's really, really great. You're going to love her. This is what she told them. And so these two individuals had no clue who I was, had never met me. And they both, what I found out afterwards, they both got together and they drafted an email to the leader who was making the hiring decision. And in the email, they said, "We don't know Carmen, but if this person knows her and vouches for her, this is as good it is as it is to us."
Well,
So that was like 5 years later. So there is, I mean, you can never underestimate the power of having those strong relationships, but you gotta cultivate them.
I think a lot of the
Yes.
doors that opened for me early on were because I had very strong references with my teachers, references with peers that I worked with in group organization and team settings, references from people within my community, within my church. Like think about who is within your network and really allow yourself to one ask for help, because I think that's a big part of it, is just
Hmm.
being able giving yourself permission to ask for help, but then also recognizing like you're not alone and there are a lot of people in your corner who are there and who are ready to support you.
Exactly.
S- so let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and we're going to guess where in the world each other are. Um, so I'm going to guess, you said you're in a very humid, muggy place in the United States. And the first place that comes to my head is Florida.
It's not Florida.
It's not Florida. Okay.
It's close.
It's near. Okay. It's nearby. All right.
A little bit to the to the west of Florida.
West of Florida. Okay. So
Hmm.
that's my clue. I have another idea. I have 2 places in mind. One
Okay.
is more of a dry heat though, and then the other place is actually one of my favorite places to
Uh-huh.
go, so I hope it's that place.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, earlier you said that this is where the oldest tree in the world is located. Is that what I heard?
Oldest tree that man planted.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Because if not, we're talking about the Methuselah Grove in California.
No,
So that's
not the redwood. The oldest living tree known to be planted by man. So there are
ah,
lots of, conditional statements there.
I know. It's like, oh, wait a second. It must be a little bit more, challenging than that. All right. And then where would that be? Let's see.
I'll give you another
Give
clue.
me another clue.
Okay. The world's first female prime minister was of this descent. So um she was from this place. The world's first female prime minister.
Okay.
Oh, I can hear you furiously typing in the background.
Sri Lanka? Are you in Sri Lanka?
I am in Sri Lanka, but I'm gonna make this a little bit tougher for you. I'm gonna make this a little bit tougher for you.
Okay.
So I am at a specific place in Sri Lanka, as you can
Okay.
see here.
Yes. Okay.
So now that you know where I'm at, the next step is to guess exactly where I'm at. But we're gonna save that
Yes.
for the next question. Okay, man, you came out swinging today. You were ready. Okay,
Oh my goodness.
excellent. Okay, so you talked a little bit about sponsorship. You used some words. You used the word ally. You used the word sponsor. Can you describe in your own words what an ally or a sponsor is?
Sure. Yes. And, let me add a little bit more context because we're talking about career. So, typically, what we see, right, when we think about career and also career progression, and this is something we all need. We basically need, you can call it different terms, but I like to either call it like a board of directors, right? So, these are
Hmm.
people that you're going to have in your career, and they may change. right? I've had some mentors for many years, and then some of them they kind of drifted, right? And we lost contact. And then I brought in some new ones, you could say. So in our career, we need different levels of support. So initially, by default, right? For instance, your manager plays a supporter kind of role, right? So this is the first person who has the closest person to you in leadership, who you could say is responsible, right, for supporting you in your career progression. So you need those types of individuals. Now, it doesn't always have to be your manager for everything. So you need to think about who you have that's going to play that support role. Okay. You also need to look for mentors, right? Most of the time they don't get assigned to us, right? So as you, let's say you begin to know of an individual, you maybe invite them to coffee, you talk a little bit about you, about their career as well, and then at one point as you develop that relationship, you may want to ask them, would you mind being my mentor? And what I mean by mentor, I'm looking for someone who can share with me some career advice. I want to know how you've made it through, some of these nuances that exist in organizations and corporate America and what have you. So don't limit them to just people within your work environment. They could be from a whole nother industry. And make sure you have a few. So these are just people that are gonna, you can check in with them every now and then, to see how you're doing, to ask them for advice, to maybe give you some advice on your resume or on an interview, things like that. Okay, so you need also to have a few of those mentors. Right now, let's say, right, let's keep it within the context of your an organization. You join a company, right? You want to advance your career. So besides delivering, right, high quality performance, you're going to need people to speak on your behalf when you're not in the room. Okay. So these are people that we would call, you could say, advocates, because they're going to give you that advocacy. So it's important, right, as you develop these mentoring relationships, to think about people who are in higher level roles than you, right? Your peers can only give you so much advocacy, but you're looking for people that are higher up in management. So not only your manager, but also above that in terms of level. So, for instance, right, if you're looking to advance your career, let these individuals know, right? Let them know that you want to grow, that you want to contribute to the organization, that you want to have a broader impact, right? It's not always about I want this promotion or that promotion, because growth may be lateral or it may be vertical. So you want to have people, like I said, who can advocate for you, so that when you're not in meetings where people are talking about, projects or enterprise level projects, company wide projects that you may be able to join, you want them to mention your name when you're not in the room. That you're someone who can definitely contribute to that project, that you have skills and expertise. So that person in the meeting would say something along the lines of, have you thought of this person? I think they would be a great fit. Okay, so these would be, again, higher level leaders than your manager, if you will, than your supervisor. Okay, so that when you're not in the room, they can speak on your behalf.
And I think you make some great points there because I remember, and I do a lot of anecdotes because I remember myself, my first job, and I expected my manager to be my sponsor. And that wasn't the case, and I over time I started hearing a lot about own your own professional development, but it was such a it was such an opaque concept for me about owning my professional development, because when you're in school, right, you're sitting in a class, you have a teacher, and you're told to sit down, shut up, and not talk, right, and just consume information and then regurgitate the information in the form of homework or a test, right? And so when you step into a corporate workforce, or you step into a workplace where you're expected to act independently and to own your own development, it's a little bit of a complex concept to grasp. So my question for you, my follow-up question for
Mhm.
you because I think you gave some really, really great tips on things that young professionals can actually, or you gave some great tips on some types of relationships young professionals can develop. Can you talk a little bit more about what are some practical ways that young professionals can actually approach or engage these allies in the pursuit of their career goals and their advancement?
Yes, no, definitely. Along with having this board of directors, and you're not just going to show up or, call the person up and say, hey, I'm looking for a sponsor, right? Remember, it's all about investing in those relationships. So I want to draw one more point around, so we talked about supporters, we talked about having mentors, we talked about having advocates, and there's a higher level, which you mentioned, sponsor. So when we think about like corporate or structures, we're talking about someone very high up in the company, right? So typically it would not be necessarily your boss unless you report to like an executive director or something. So we're talking high level leadership. And so that would be because that person basically can vouch for you and say, no, this is who we want to give the job to. They can make that phone call, right? So they're basically high up in the rank that they are the decision maker. I don't know if you know this, but when you're applying for a job, it's not just the hiring manager who's making the decision.
Hmm.
So you're talking 2, 3 levels up. So you may have all the right skills, but if those people don't know you, especially when you apply internally, there's a better chance that they grant you that opportunity if they know you. Okay. Now let's talk about how people can know you. One of the things we don't think about is, so what do I say? How do I even start it? So let me give you an example. I knew my advancing my career was going to be really important. And I knew, for instance, that, and this is just my story, my assumption, that people in higher level leadership, like executives, they tend to be rather lonely people
Hmm.
because people are concerned or afraid to go to them because they're like, what do I say? So one of the practices that I developed, right, as I join organizations, and it doesn't matter if you're young or early on in your career or mid-level, what have you, is every opportunity that you can make sure that you get to know one or various of the executives. So for me, one of the things as not day one when I started in a company, but a few months in, I would say, I would send out an email to the admin assistant of the executive. And I would say, listen, I'm new to the company and I want to know how I can better impact this organization. I'm meeting every one of the executives. So I was wondering if I could schedule a meeting with so and so. Can you put it on their calendar? Like a little coffee break. And so the admin would say, "Oh, sure, I can go ahead. 15 minutes is the most you get." Right? Because they're very busy people. So the first meeting was just about, I am Carmen. I joined the organization 6 months ago, and I really want to support you all in making sure that we, meet our business goals, our outcomes. So I just want to know how you do it. Like, tell me about your path, your career path. Okay. And then at the end of the 20-minute conversation, so I let them basically do all the talking because, they don't get a lot of time to interact with lower level, you could say, employees, right? They're in constant meetings. And then the person was, talking, what have you. So at the end, I would say, would you mind if I follow up with you maybe in a couple months so we can chat again? And I want to learn more about you, but I also want to learn how, through my role in whatever role I'm in, right? HR or in training, where I can help you solve some issues for this organization. And they looked at me twice like, sure, why not? And so I kept coming back, right? And so this is not to say you got to know everyone and anyone. Pick 5 people, maybe 3 to start off with. Created a goal that by the end of a year's time frame that you would have created, a few relationships with some higher level leaders. Okay, not that others don't matter, but these are the people that can give you the visibility. They can give you, because again, they're higher ranking. So this is about managing up.
And I know if you're a student right now and you were to reach out to some of these senior leaders and say, hey, I'm inspired by you and I just want to understand about how you got to where you are and your role in your journey, first of all, people love to talk about themselves.
Exactly.
And second of all, you're a student, right? Like you're already in a position where you are someone who you're googly eyed, you're bright eyed, you have ideas for the future, and uh, great leaders want to nurture that naturally. So I would say a lot of it is about getting over our own fear and our own internal trepidation about, like reaching out and making the connection. But once you get past that, so many doors will open for you.
And you got to do it in a way that you feel comfortable. So
Mm,
let's say you are an introvert, right? Many people are. So maybe that first step is not going to be looking for three names and emailing the admin assistant. Maybe you start off, if you're already employed, you start off with, let's say, the executive that that your business unit, right, is under, reports up to. In other words, maybe not so much at that level. Maybe you want to start with one level below the suite, let's say, but go up, because part of career success is not about getting along with just your peers and your managers at that level. It's above that.
mm,
Okay, so if you're thinking, I want to grow my career, I want to get promoted, you got to look higher. People who do this well, they manage up really effectively. One of the things that I like to, I do a lot of coaching through the work that I do. I can't tell you just like, and I can't go into details, but I run into either, I also coach like with this young professionals organization. So I get an opportunity to see and kind of feel where they're coming from. And a lot of people, generally speaking, I've seen have trouble what we call bragging about themselves,
mm,
right? We are uncomfortable. We're like, people are going to think, people, I don't want people to misunderstand, but it's not about misrepresenting you. And one of the tools that I like to use is be okay with talking about yourself.
mm,
If you're looking at, there's a lot of books out there that can help you. Like you could just pull, a chapter from books, and then really do something with it. Most recently I've been using this book quite a bit. So it's called Brag: The Art of Tooting Your Own Horn Without Blowing It. And this is an amazing book. If anyone is looking, right, to, and I didn't write it, it's been out there for many, many years by this author, Peggy Claus. And she gives you so many nuggets of how you can actually find a way that you can be comfortable with speaking to people about what you bring. What is the value? So she has this concept, this idea in the book where you can, answer like 12 questions, and then that's going to help you create your bragging back, if you will, right? There might be newer terms nowadays, right? But in essence, this book, it talks about really speaking about you, who you are, the values, the value proposition, so that at any time, if you're in a setting where like there's a networking event, what am I going to talk to? There's an executive there. What do I say? So this book contains some nuggets that are going to help you really craft, what will be that message that you'll have readily available. Or maybe you find yourself, in an elevator with a higher level leader in your organization, or someone you want to connect with. So it's going to give you some tools to open up those conversations, and really be comfortable with speaking about who you are. We all have a story that we want to share. We all have a story of what we bring. Like, what's your brand statement? So instead of, for instance, when I meet people, I don't go into, I am Carmen Urquiza and I've been in corporate America for 20 years, and my education is this, because that's something they can read on my resume. So I actually recommend to people that they begin their introduction with like their brand statement. Who are you? What do you bring to the table? So you can switch it up depending on your audience. So anytime I introduce myself to people like my clients, or in and outside of the organization, and I want them to know what I bring to the table, I talk about, that I love what I do, and I get to wake up every day and positively impact people's lives. And how I do that, currently is I design courses or I facilitate courses as well as conduct individual or group coaching. And this is all in an effort to really help people align to their North Star, to really live a successful, either a professional or a personal life. And so as you think about what do I talk about to people, it's uncomfortable, right? You meet them in a networking event. Think about how do you represent yourself? Are you a strategic leader? Are you, highly educated individual who, is adapt to solve problems and quickly and very effectively? So if you begin to think of your narrative, right? Rather than a label of your experience and what have you, people are going to say, wow, tell me more. How do you do it? And so that creates a space for you to be able to have real genuine dialogue with people, not again, not through what's on your resume. So that's a challenge for you to think about. How do you want to represent yourself? So use, whether a book like this or anything else, that work on a 1 to 2 minute introduction about you, so you'll have it at readily available anytime you meet somebody new.
All right. So you've already guessed where I'm at. So I have to guess where you are. So you are not in Florida.
No, not in Florida. It's a man-made
Oh,
lake that you're seeing,
oh,
if that helps you any.
that just flipped everything around that I was thinking.
Hmm.
Wow, because I was gonna say New Orleans.
So it's close to New
Okay,
Orleans,
so I'm
but
close
not
to
in
New
that
Orleans.
state. No.
Okay, all right. So
And
we're
it's known for eagles habitat.
oh, interesting.
Hmm.
Okay. Um,
Like I purposely visited to find the eagle. I never found it, but it was known for that.
are we in Mississippi?
No. Close. You're close.
Am
Yes.
am I in between
Let me give you let
Florida?
me let me give you a clue.
Okay.
There's a lot of what do you call it? Hats and boots. People wear a lot of hats and boots,
I was gonna say Texas. That was my
but
first
not
guess.
Texas. Where is there another state where people wear a
Where
lot of boots and hats?
Tennessee.
Yes.
Is Tennessee hot and humid? I
Yes.
I I've I've been to Tennessee one time.
In July it
So,
was.
okay. 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 All right. So we're
Hmm.
somewhere in Tennessee.
Hmm.
Okay. Um,
And
is it
there's a lake.
this is a well-known place?
Yes, for Tennessee, yes. And it's one of the, like, I guess you could say that one of the larger cities in Tennessee where a lot
Okay.
of people go.
Okay. Okay, great. Um, okay. I think I may have an idea. I think I may have an idea. But I have a couple okay, we have a few more minutes.
Hmm.
I have uh I want to read a statistic to you and I want to get
Sure.
your reaction.
Hmm.
Okay. So, according to research statistics, employee satisfaction rockets nearly 50% when a worker develops a close relationship on the job. For 30% of workers who say they have a best friend at work, 56% are engaged. For the remaining 70% of employees who did not have a best friend at work, only 8% were engaged. This statistic is according to the National Business Research Institute. What is your reaction to that?
So sometimes people go, what do you mean a best friend? I mean, I have those outside of work, right? So, but think about it. I think it reminds us as to the power of relationships. The human being, we're all about connection. It's one of the most basic needs that we have. We need to connect with people. So if people feel like I belong, there's a higher chance that they're gonna feel like I'm gonna put more discretionary effort into this. So totally makes sense in terms of if we feel that I don't have someone I can go to, right? Someone I feel close to, At work, I'm going to check out. I'll be here, I will work, but I'm not going to give my best performance, if you will. That discretionary effort, it'll diminish. And if I don't feel supported, right, by someone at work, eventually I'm basically going to check out,
Mhm.
right? In other words, you're going to pay me, but chances are I'm not going to do my best work. So, yes, they go hand in hand because, again, the human connection is really important.
Mhm. And so what I really like about that statistic and how you summarize that is we've been talking about relationships in terms of career development, finding sponsors, finding allies to advance, but or career development. We've been talking about relationships in terms of that. But I think relationships are also important because from a mental health perspective at work, it's like it helps you perform better to have good relationships. It helps you to perform better when you genuinely like the people that you're working with every single
Mhm.
day. And so w- if you enjoy the people you work with and you enjoy your work more, you'll naturally perform better, or that's the idea, right? And that's going to position you in a space where you can advance in your career.
Mhm.
Um, And so I want to think of it from that perspective because I think when we talk a lot about networking, it can feel very transactional, right? Like, what can you do for me, right? I'm going to set up this meeting. It's a coffee chat and I want to get to know you. But in reality, I'm just trying to advance, right? But what I think what you're saying is connection, human connection a such an important part of just our being. And when you think about how much time your work takes up in your day, in your week, in your month, in your year, you want to go to a place where you feel connected, where you feel like you have an understanding of the people around you and they have an understanding of you. You want to feel seen, heard, understood. And of course, we all want to feel loved. So that just really stuck out to me, and I really appreciate the way that you saw that because I was curious. I saw the statistic and I thought it was interesting, but I hadn't quite digested it in that way, and I think you just really brought that full circle. So thank you.
Sure.
Um, so we are here at the end,
Uh-huh.
and we're not done though. I have one
No
more
worries.
question for you. It's a
Sure.
question we ask everyone. Um, but before we do, I gotta guess where you're at because you're in
Okay.
Tennessee,
Uh-huh.
and so I'm gonna guess Pigeon Forge.
No, I believe it's close by.
It's
So
close.
it's near Nashville.
Okay.
It's just outside of Nashville.
Okay.
It's kind of like a little hidden treasure that they have in this area, and it's a
Uh,
lake. It's a man-made lake.
it's a hidden treasure.
For me, it was. I was like, "Whoa, where has this been? It's beautiful. It's gorgeous."
So okay, let me see. Is it large?
So walking around it, it took because you kind of, I mean, to me, it was huge, right? There's a whole community
Okay.
around it. So like going around the entire lake, right? Just normal
Okay.
pace, if you will. It takes you about close to 2 hours.
Okay.
You know, if you're stopping, taking pictures, that sort of thing. And the lake, it begins with an R.
Okay.
So
That's
R
not what I.
blank lake. I'll tell you, it's called Radnor
Okay.
Lake. Hmm.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit why you chose this place. Is it
Hmm.
significant to you?
It is because for me, when I go on vacation, I want to experience freedom.
Mhm.
Freedom from the everyday, not that it's the hustle and bustle, but we are busy individuals, right? So for me, anytime I look to take let's say a quick trip, I look for places where I can go and just be in touch with nature
Mm.
or some variation of it, right? Like this is a man-made lake, but I went to a lot of forests out just outside of Nashville, and it allowed me to disconnect. Like there was no mobile service there. You basically are walking, you're experiencing, you're touching nature. You're looking for eagles, right? Everyone goes there to look for the eagles. There's like two or three of them,
Mm.
and so just like that little, I guess you could say journey, if you will, mini journey. That those couple days, we came back a couple days because the place was beautiful, and you saw you. I felt so connected to nature, right? And it's like elements. There were deer, there were ducks, there were geese, there were other animals, right, in the area. But just walking through this forestry area was just beautiful. And then, like right in the middle of that walk, I mean, it just the storm came down, like in the middle of the summer, and so just feeling that like this sense of freedom and like feeling liberated from the day-to-day chores was just to me was the way that I recharge myself.
Hmm. That's beautiful. And I think we all need to find those spaces where we can go and we can recharge. I remember when I lived in California and I lived in San Pedro, there was a cliff and there was like right on the edge of the cliff, and you can kind of walk down to the bottom, and it was very rocky, and there weren't a ton of people there because it's kind of more of those hidden gems. And I just remember that kind of being my space to just kind of relax and let go and to ground myself. And so I love that you're finding these spaces. And so you were just there for a vacation, or was
It
there
was
some
vacation. We went for
vacation?
1 week and we're like, we're just going to take hikes every day. We're going
That's
to go
beautiful.
see to Nashville. We went to watch listen to some music there.
Mhm.
Went to a couple concerts. So it was just a really relaxing week. And I was like, who goes to Nashville in the middle of summer? I did. And I loved every moment of it. Mhm.
Wonderful. Well, next time I'm in Nashville, I'll definitely have to check out Radnor Lake.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll tell you a little bit more about this rocky
Sure.
place that I'm at. So I am in Sri Lanka, and the name of this place is, and I may not pronounce this correctly, but it's Sigiriya, and
Okay.
it was built by King Kasyapa, who ruled from 477 to 495 CE. The citadel on top of this. This is a big rock.
Ah,
So this
okay.
is just a huge rock, 200 meters high. It takes 1,200 steps to reach the top.
Wow.
Um, and it was previously thought to be a Buddhist monastery at one point. So it's really cool. And there's apparently a lion at the
Mhm.
gateway, so you can, as you're climbing up the rock, there's some paws there. That's really cool.
Okay.
Um, and I hope that I get the opportunity to really visit this because it kind of looks like a spa almost too.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yes, definitely put it on your bucket list.
Yes. All right. So for our final question for tonight,
Sure.
and this is a question we ask all of our guests, how would you describe success?
How would I describe success? To me, it's not about necessarily titles. For me, it's finding what is your vision for living your best life. What is it? What would you be doing? How would you be contributing? Who would be, you could say, the recipient, right, of the work that you're doing, whatever it is you choose to do. And then you can only get that if you have really clarity around what you want to do. So clarity, I mean, is the first and foremost, is the most critical step. A lot of us say, I don't know what I want to do. So if we don't know what we want to do, how will we know we're there? So
Mhm.
having that clarity around, and that could change, right? Your vision for your very best life could change every few years. But just getting clear, because once you know what it is that you're passionate about, that you want to do, that you want to see yourself in no other means, if you will, but that's it, that is your north star. Then you can go into that with confidence, right? Confidence is like, it's something you can learn. It's a skill that we can all learn. And then also another element of success is, what's your mindset? Going there with a growth mindset, right? That you can learn, that you can grow. So to me, that's what living, right? What success looks like is living the best version of your life.
Beautiful. And such wise words is living your best version of your life and getting clarity on what that is. And I think it's great to hear that you found that alignment and you stepped into this space. And I think sometimes clarity comes over and over again, right? We have clarity and then we go through our life experience and we have more clarity.
Hmm.
And really, that's why we talk about riding the tide and just allowing ourselves to go with the momentum of life. So, thank you so much, Carmen, for coming on the show, for sharing your deep, profound insight. I learned so much from you, and I'm sure our viewers also learned much from you as well. And tell us a little bit more about where can we find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, right? If anyone wants to connect with me, I don't post a whole lot on LinkedIn. I'm a really busy individual in a good way, right? So whether I'm working or I'm supporting a local like nonprofit by mentoring, by coaching people. But if you want to connect via LinkedIn, if you have any questions that you would like to just leverage or tap me and say, I want to know, do you have a book you recommend? Or what would you do in this instance? Feel free to connect via LinkedIn. That is the best way to reach me, and I'd be happy to respond to you. I do that quite a bit with people that I interact with through my professional circle, as well as people who I get to meet through some of the volunteer work that I do.
Well, thank you, Carmen, again. And with that, we will say good night.
All right.
Bye.
Yes, it's been my pleasure. Take care, everyone. Bye, Clary.
Bye.